The first explosion lit up the night sky like a second sun. Ambassador Velik pressed his hands against the observation window of the civilian station and watched his world begin to die. The defense platform that had stood guard over his homeworld for 300 years was now nothing but burning debris falling through the atmosphere. Another explosion followed. Then another. The Kresh Armada had arrived without warning, without negotiation, without mercy. Their ships were dark and angular, designed for one purpose only: destruction. Velik turned away from the window as alarms screamed through the station. Around him, Taurian civilians ran in panic. Parents clutched their children. The elderly struggled to keep up. Security officers tried to maintain order, but they had no training for this. The Taurian people had not fought a war in over 1,000 years. They had no soldiers, no weapons, no hope. He ran through the crowded corridors toward the communication center. His legs felt weak. His breath came in short gasps. Fear clawed at his chest, but he forced himself forward. Someone had to do something. Someone had to try. The communication center was chaos. Technicians shouted over each other. Screens showed the carnage unfolding across the system. Colony stations went dark, one by one. Trading posts stopped transmitting. The civilian evacuation ships that tried to flee were cut down before they could jump to safety. High Shepherd Mora stood at the center of the room. Her silver robes were stained with dust from where part of the ceiling had collapsed. Her face was calm, but Velik could see the terror in her eyes. She was the leader of the Taurian Council, responsible for billions of lives, and she had no way to save them. How long until they reached the planet? She asked quietly. 2 hours, a technician replied. His voice shook. Maybe less. Mora closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she looked directly at Velik. Send the emergency broadcast. All channels. Every species we have contact with. They will not come, another council member said. No one will risk war with the Kresh for us. Then we die alone. Mora said. Her voice was steady now. But we will die, knowing we asked for help. Velik moved to the main console. His fingers trembled as he opened the emergency channels. He had prepared this message 100 times in drills and training exercises. He had never thought he would actually send it. The screen showed him the list of species who might receive the signal. The Zenthari, who valued profit above all else. The Milax Confederation, who had their own wars to fight. The Correlation Worlds, who avoided conflict at any cost. And at the bottom of the list, marked in red as a restricted channel, was humanity. Everyone in the galaxy knew about humans. They came from a world so dangerous that most species considered it a death sentence. They were aggressive, unpredictable, and violent. Most civilized species refused to trade with them. Some governments had placed quarantine orders around their territory. The humans were tolerated because they kept to themselves, but no one wanted to provoke them. Should I include the human channel? Velik asked. The room went silent. Every eye turned to Mora. Include everyone, she said. Even the humans. Velik activated the broadcast. His voice went out across the stars, speaking words he wished he would never have to say. This is Ambassador Velik of the Taurian Council. Our system is under attack. The Kresh Armada is destroying our defenses. Civilians are dying. Our children are dying. We have no military. We need help. Please. If anyone can hear this, please help us. He ended the transmission and waited. The room was silent, except for the distant sound of explosions, as the Kresh moved closer to the planet. Minutes passed. Then an hour. No one responded. The civilized galaxy had heard their cry and turned away. Velik felt something break inside him. They were truly alone. Then a light blinked on his console. An incoming transmission. Human frequency. His hand shook as he accepted it. A face appeared on the screen. It was a human male, probably in his 40s. His skin was darker than Velik expected. His eyes were a deep brown, and his expression was completely calm despite the urgency of the situation. He wore a dark blue uniform with military markings. This is Captain Jake Morrison, of the United Human Ship Valiant, the human said. His voice was steady and controlled. "We received your distress call. How many civilians are in danger?" Velik could barely speak. 15 billion on the planet. Another 2 million in orbit. How many attackers? 47 ships. Capital class. We have no defense against them. The human was quiet for a moment. Then he said 3 words that Velik would remember for the rest of his life. "We are coming." The transmission ended before Velik could respond. He stared at the blank screen, unsure if he had imagined it. Around him, the other Taurians were equally stunned. "Did he say they are coming?" Mora asked quietly. "Yes," Velik whispered. "How many ships do they have in the area?" Velik checked the long-range sensors. The answer made his blood run cold. 12. They have 12 ships. The room erupted in dismay. 12 ships against 47. It was suicide. The humans would be destroyed, and the Taurians would still die. But as Velik watched the sensors, he saw something that made no sense. The 12 human ships were not moving slowly and carefully. They were pushing their engines beyond what should be possible. They were burning through space at speeds that would tear apart most vessels. And they were coming directly toward the Taurian system without any hesitation. "They are overloading their engines," a technician said in disbelief. "They will arrive in 36 hours. Quote, "That is impossible," another said. "No crew can survive those acceleration rates." Quote, Velik remembered what he had heard about humans. They came from a death world. They had evolved under crushing gravity and survived predators that would terrify most sentient species. Perhaps what killed other beings only made humans uncomfortable. On the main screen, the Kresh broadcast a message to the planet below. Commander Kilrax appeared. He was massive and armored. His species bred for conquest. His voice was filled with contempt as he spoke. "People of Toria, you are now property of the Kresh Empire. Surrender your cities. Your factories will serve us. Your people will serve us. Your children will be raised to serve us. Resistance will result in orbital bombardment of your population centers. You have 1 hour to comply." The transmission ended. Velik looked at the countdown on his screen. 1 hour until the Kresh began destroying cities. 36 hours until the humans arrived. "They will not make it in time," Mora said softly. Velik looked at the sensor display showing the human ships racing toward them. 12 small vessels against an Empire's fleet. It seemed hopeless. But the humans were coming anyway. They had heard children were dying, and they were coming anyway. "Perhaps they do not need to win," Velik said quietly. "Perhaps they only need to make the Kresh pay a price too high to continue." The space at the edge of the Taurian system tore open like a wound. Reality bent and twisted as 12 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They arrived in perfect formation, their dark hulls scarred from dozens of previous battles. At the center of the formation was the UHS Valiant, its name painted in bold white letters across the bow. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His uniform was crisp, despite the 36-hour journey. His crew had worked in shifts to survive the acceleration, sleeping in special harnesses, while their bodies endured forces that would have killed most other species. They were tired. They were sore, but they were ready. "Status report," Morrison said calmly. Commander Lisa Hayes worked at her console. She was younger than Morrison by 10 years, but she had served with him long enough to know how he thought. "All ships report ready for combat. The Kresh have 47 capital ships surrounding the planet. They outnumber us nearly 4 to 1. How long until they detect us? They already have. Receiving an incoming transmission from the planet. It is Ambassador Velik. Put him through." The screen flickered, and the Taurian ambassador appeared. He looked like he had not slept in days. His skin was pale. His eyes were wide with exhaustion and fear. When he saw Morrison, something like hope crossed his face. "Captain Morrison, you came. I did not think anyone would come." "We said we would," Morrison replied simply. "What is the current situation?" "The Kresh have been bombarding the surface for the past day. They are targeting population centers, hospitals, schools." Velik's voice broke. They are killing children to force our surrender. Morrison's expression did not change, but Hayes saw his jaw tighten. She had served with him for 8 years. She knew what that meant. How many casualties? Morrison asked. 300,000 so far. Another million wounded. The bridge was silent. Every human on board had heard the number. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper sat at the weapons console, his young face hardening. Doctor, Amy Chen stood near the medical bay entrance, her hands clenched into fists. Sergeant Greg Palmer, waiting with his Marine units, felt his anger turn cold and focused. We will handle this, Morrison said to Velic. Get your evacuation ships ready to move as soon as we engage the creche. Move your civilians to the far side of the planet. Captain, there are too many of them. You cannot possibly win this fight. Morrison smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Ambassador. We are from Earth. We have fought worse odds than this and survived. Trust me. The transmission ended. Morrison turned to his crew. Hayes. Analysis. Hayes brought up a tactical display. It showed the creche fleet in detail. Heavy cruisers, destroyers, and 3 massive dreadnoughts. They surrounded the planet in a standard siege formation, designed to maximize bombardment coverage while protecting each other from attack. They have positioned themselves to cover all angles, Hayes said. Their flagship is at the center of the formation. That is where their commander will be. Weak points? The formation is designed to fight enemies who engage at long range. If we close to short range, their larger ships will have trouble targeting us without hitting each other. They are not expecting us to get close, Morrison said. They think we will engage from a safe distance, like civilized species do. Hayes smiled. They do not know humans very well. Morrison activated the fleet-wide channel. His voice reached every captain in the small human fleet. All ships, this is Morrison. The enemy has been targeting children. I am sure you have all heard the casualty reports. I am sure you are all as angry as I am. But we will not let anger make us sloppy. We will be cold. We will be precise. And we will teach the creche why you do not threaten children when humanity is watching. Across the fleet, crews responded with grim determination. Engineers pushed reactors to maximum power. Weapons officers checked their targeting systems 3 times. Marines loaded their equipment and prepared for boarding actions. Morrison opened a channel to the creche flagship. This is Captain Jake Morrison, of the United Human Fleet. You are hereby ordered to cease bombardment and withdraw from this system immediately. This is your only warning. The response came quickly. A massive alien appeared on screen. Commander Kilrax was easily twice the size of a human. Covered in thick armor plating that looked like part of his body, his face was brutal and cruel. When he spoke, his voice was filled with contempt. Humans. I have heard of your species. Primitives from a backwater world. You dare to give me orders? I do not give orders twice, Morrison said. His voice was quiet and cold. Leave now, or face the consequences. Kilrax laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. I will destroy your pathetic fleet in minutes. Then I will add Earth to my list of conquests. Your children will learn to serve the Creche Empire on their knees. Morrison cut the transmission. He turned to Hayes. He threatened our children. I want him alive when this is over. I want him to face trial for his crimes. Understood. Morrison sat in his command chair. All ships. Engage at will. Cooper. You may fire when ready. Palmer. Prepare boarding parties. Sullivan. I need everything you can give me. In the engineering section, Kate Sullivan grinned as she rerouted power through the ship's systems. She had been waiting for this. Captain, I can give you 120% for about 15 minutes before we need to cool down. That will be enough. The human ships accelerated toward the Creche fleet. They did not slow down as they approached. They did not spread out to minimize damage. Instead, they dove directly into the enemy formation at speeds that made the Creche sensors scream warnings. The first Creche destroyer opened fire. Its weapons were designed to destroy ships at long range, But the human vessels moved faster than its targeting computer could track. The shots missed by dozens of meters. Before the destroyer could adjust, the human ship was past it and moving deeper into the formation. Kilrax watched in confusion from his flagship. What are they doing? They are flying directly into our formation. They will be surrounded. His tactical officer was equally confused. They are using acceleration rates that should kill their crews. Their ships should be tearing apart from the stress. Then destroy them. But destroying the human ships proved difficult. They moved between the larger Kresh vessels, using them as cover. When they fired, their weapons were devastatingly accurate. They did not waste shots on thick armor or heavy shields. Instead, they targeted engines, weapons systems, and command centers. Each shot was precise and crippling. Lieutenant Cooper worked his console with steady hands. He had been training for this his entire adult life. Every simulation. Every drill. It all came together now. He targeted a Kresh cruiser's main reactor, fired 3 shots in quick succession, and watched the enemy ship go dark. No explosion. No casualties. Just a dead vessel drifting in space. That is 12 ships disabled, he reported, targeting the next one. Hayes coordinated the fleet's movements like a conductor leading an orchestra. She saw patterns the Kresh did not. She found openings in their formation. She directed human ships through gaps that seemed too small to fit through. The Kresh fleet began to break apart, trying to adjust to an enemy that refused to follow normal combat rules. On one of the disabled Kresh ships, Sergeant Palmer led his Marines through the corridors. The Kresh soldiers were bigger and stronger than humans. They had thicker armor and more powerful weapons, but they had never fought an enemy like this before. Palmer's squad moved fast. They used grenades to stun rather than kill. They fired at joints in the Kresh armor. They worked as a team, covering each other, never stopping. When a Kresh soldier tried to take hostages from the civilian prisoners on board, Palmer put a round through the alien's weapon hand before he could pull the trigger. "Get the civilians to the evacuation pods," Palmer ordered. "Chen, we are sending you about 200 Kresh prisoners who need medical attention." In the medical bay, Dr. Chen prepared to receive both wounded humans and injured Kresh soldiers. She did not think about the enemy part. She thought about the oath she had taken to treat anyone who needed help. Even monsters deserved medical care before they faced justice. The battle had been raging for 20 minutes when Hayes detected something on her sensors. Her blood went cold. "Captain, the Kresh flagship is charging a weapon. Energy signature is off the scale." Morrison saw it too. "What is it?" "Planet killer. They would rather destroy the world than lose it to us." Morrison's hands gripped his armrest. "How long until it fires?" 4 minutes. "Can we destroy the flagship in time?" "Not without sacrificing multiple ships. And even then, I am not certain we can penetrate their shields." Morrison made his decision instantly. "All ships. Target the Kresh flagship. Everything you have. Cooper, I need a firing solution that will take down their shields." "Working on it." Morrison opened a channel to Sullivan. "Kate, I need you to do some." The first layer of shields vaporized instantly. The energy beam from the planet killer weapon was designed to crack entire worlds open. Against a single ship, it should have been like shooting at paper with a missile. But the Valiant did not move. It held position between the weapon and the planet, absorbing energy that could have ended billions of lives. On the bridge, the lights flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in red. The temperature spiked as cooling systems failed. The hull screamed as metal expanded beyond its designed limits. But still, Sullivan kept the ship in position. "Shield status," Morrison said calmly. His voice was steady despite the fact that his chair was hot enough to burn. "Down to 40%, Sullivan reported. Her hands flew across her console as she rerouted power from every non-essential system, diverting life support to shields. "We have maybe 30 seconds before we break apart." Hayes checked her tactical display. "The weapon is still firing. It has a sustained beam duration of 45 seconds. Morrison did the math instantly. They would not make it. but 15 billion Taurians on the planet below would live. That was enough. Then Cooper spoke up from his weapons console. "Captain, I have an idea. It is probably stupid. Stupid ideas are welcome right now. The energy beam is highly focused. If we angle our shields and spin the ship, we might be able to deflect some of it instead of absorbing all of it directly." Sullivan understood immediately. That would reduce the load on the shields. We might survive. "Do it," Morrison ordered. Sullivan fired the maneuvering thrusters. The Valiant began to rotate slowly, angling its shield so the energy beam would glance off instead of hitting straight on. It worked. The pressure on the shields dropped. The ship stopped screaming. They would survive. On the planet below, Ambassador Velik watched from the observation window. He saw the human ship glowing like a star as it absorbed energy meant to destroy his world. He saw it begin to spin, deflecting the beam away from the planet. Tears ran down his face. The humans were dying to save people they had never met. People who most of the galaxy considered worthless. The weapon finally stopped firing. The Kresh flagship's power core had been drained completely. The Valiant continued to spin slowly, its shields flickering and weak. Its hull scorched black, but it was still intact. Morrison stood up. His uniform was soaked with sweat. Around him, his crew was bruised and shaken but alive. "Status report. Shields at 7%, Sullivan said. "Hull integrity at 63%. We took a beating, but we are still in this fight." "Good. Hayes, what about the flagship?" "Their power core is completely drained. They cannot fire the weapon again or jump to faster than light travel. They are helpless." Morrison opened a channel to the rest of the fleet. "All ships. The flagship is yours. Disable it, but do not destroy it. I want Kilrax alive." The human ships descended on the Kresh flagship like wolves on wounded prey. They targeted engines, weapons, communication arrays. Within minutes, the massive ship was dead in space, unable to fight, unable to flee, unable to even call for help. Palmer's Marines launched from 3 different ships simultaneously. They cut through the flagship's hull with plasma torches and poured into the corridors. The Kresh soldiers inside fought desperately, but they were defending a ship that was falling apart around them. Systems failed. Bulkheads sealed randomly. Life support flickered on and off. Palmer moved through the ship with his squad behind him. They had studied the layout during the approach. They knew where the command center was. They knew where Kilrax would be. They also knew there were civilian hostages somewhere on board. The Kresh often kept slaves from conquered worlds. "Martinez, take your fire team and find the prisoners," Palmer ordered. "Everyone else, with me. We are going after Kilrax." They found the command center sealed behind heavy blast doors. Palmer placed shaped charges on the hinges and stepped back. The explosion blew the doors inward. The Marines rushed through, weapons ready. The command center was chaos. Kresh officers scrambled to restore systems that kept failing. At the center of it all stood Commander Kilrax. He was even bigger in person than he had appeared on screen. His armor was thick and battle-scarred. He held a massive weapon that looked like it could cut a human in half. "You dare to board my ship?" Kilrax roared. "I am a commander of the Kresh Empire. I have conquered 20 worlds. I will not be taken by primitives." Palmer did not waste words. He raised his weapon and fired. The round struck Kilrax's armor and bounced off. The Kresh commander laughed and charged forward. He was fast for his size. His weapon swung in a wide arc that would have decapitated Palmer if it connected. But Palmer was not there anymore. He had rolled to the side. While Kilrax was off balance, Palmer fired 3 more shots. 2 hit the joints in Kilrax's armor, where it was thinnest. The third hit his weapon hand. The massive gun clattered to the floor. Kilrax staggered, but did not fall. He reached for Palmer with his bare hands. Palmer ducked under the grab and swept Kilrax's legs out from under him. The massive alien crashed to the floor. Before he could rise, 6 Marines had their weapons trained on him. "You are under arrest for war crimes," Palmer said simply. "You can come quietly, or we can make this difficult. Your choice." Kilrax looked at the weapons pointed at him. He looked at the humans surrounding him. They were so much smaller than him, so much weaker physically. But their eyes were hard and cold. He had seen that look before in other predators on other worlds. These were not prey animals pretending to be strong. These were apex predators showing mercy by letting him live. He surrendered. Meanwhile, Martinez's team had found the prisoners. They were in the cargo hold, locked in cages meant for animals. There were hundreds of them, Taurians mostly, but also members of other species the Kresh had enslaved. Many were injured. All were terrified. "We are human military," Martinez announced in a loud, clear voice. "You are safe now. We are getting you out of here." The prisoners did not move. They had been captives long enough to know that escape was impossible. This had to be a trick. Martinez holstered his weapon and approached the nearest cage. He pulled out a plasma cutter and began cutting through the lock. "I know you are scared. I know you do not trust us. But I promise you, we are here to help. No one is going to hurt you anymore." The lock broke. The cage door swung open. A young Taurian female stood inside, holding a small child. She looked at Martinez with wide, terrified eyes. Martinez smiled gently. He had a daughter about the same age back on Earth. "It is okay. You can come out. See? The guards are gone. You are free." The female took one hesitant step forward, then another. She looked around the cargo hold and saw that the Kresh guards really were gone. The humans had defeated them. Tears began to fall down her face. She stumbled forward and collapsed. Martinez caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy now," he said softly. "You are safe. Let us get you to our medical bay. Dr. Chen will take care of you and your little one." He activated his comm. "Palmer, we found about 300 prisoners. Many are injured. We need medical evacuation immediately." "On the way," Palmer replied. "We have Kilrax in custody. The flagship is secured." Across the battlefield, the remaining Kresh ships saw their flagship fall. They saw their commander captured. They saw nearly half their fleet disabled or destroyed by only 12 human ships. The survivors made a choice. They fled. The human ships let them go. They had not come here to conquer or to seek revenge. They had come to protect civilians. That mission was complete. On the bridge of the Valiant, Morrison watched the Kresh ships jump away. Hayes stood beside him, looking at the tactical display. "Should we pursue them?" "No. Let them run. Let them spread the word about what happens when you threaten children in human space. They will tell everyone that we defeated a fleet 4 times our size." "Good. Maybe next time, other species will think twice before attacking civilians." Dr. Chen's voice came over the comm. "Captain, I have incoming wounded from the flagship. The prisoners are in bad shape. Malnutrition, untreated injuries, psychological trauma. Some of them have been enslaved for years." Morrison's jaw tightened. "Do whatever you can for them." "Sullivan, how long until the other ships arrive to help with evacuations?" "The Taurians are already launching their medical ships. They have also offered to take the freed prisoners and help them contact their home worlds." "Good. Hayes, coordinate with Ambassador Velik. Let us make sure all the wounded get proper care, both Taurian and the freed slaves." "What about the Kresh wounded?" Morrison was quiet for a moment. "Treat them. Give them medical care. Then they will face trial for their crimes. We are not like them. We do not leave the wounded to die." Chen understood. It was one thing to fight with everything you had to protect the innocent. It was another thing entirely to become like the monsters you fought against. Humanity had learned that lesson the hard way over thousands of years of war and suffering. They would not forget it now. Over the next hours, the human fleet worked with the Taurians to stabilize the system. Palmer's Marines secured the disabled Kresh ships and found more prisoners on several of them. Chen worked without sleep to treat everyone who needed help, human and alien alike. Sullivan and the engineering crews helped repair damaged Taurian stations. Ambassador Velik came aboard the Valiant personally to thank Morrison. He found the captain in the observation deck, looking out at the planet below. The cities were damaged but intact. The people were scared but alive. It could have been so much worse. Captain Morrison, Velic said quietly. My people owe you a debt we can never repay. The council chamber was damaged but still standing. Blast marks scarred the walls where debris had struck during the bombardment. Several of the seats were empty, their occupants killed in the first hours of the attack. But High Shepherd Mora stood at the center. Her silver robes replaced with simple work clothes, she had spent the past 2 days helping clear rubble and treat the wounded. Leadership meant working alongside her people, not hiding in safety. Captain Morrison entered the chamber with Commander Hayes at his side. The other council members stood as he approached. It was a sign of deep respect in Taurian culture. Morrison felt uncomfortable with the gesture but understood its importance. Captain Morrison, Mora began, we have called you here to make a formal request. What you and your people did for us goes beyond military assistance. You risked your lives for strangers. You put your ship between our world and certain death. Your medics are still working around the clock to save our wounded. Your engineers are helping rebuild our stations. You have shown us what true strength looks like. Morrison waited. He could sense there was more coming. Mora continued. The Taurian Council has voted unanimously. We wish to request that humanity establish a permanent defense station in our system. More than that, we wish to propose a formal treaty. We want Earth to become our protector species. Hayes glanced at Morrison. This was bigger than a simple alliance. This was asking humanity to take responsibility for an entire civilization. With respect, High Shepherd, Morrison said carefully. That is a significant commitment. One I cannot make without authorization from my government. What exactly would this treaty involve? Another council member spoke up. She was older than Mora. Her face lined with age and recent grief. We are not warriors, Captain. We never have been. For 1,000 years, we believed that peace could be maintained through diplomacy and trade alone. The Kresh proved us wrong. But we cannot simply build weapons and armies. It is not in our nature. We are scientists, artists, philosophers. We create beauty and knowledge. We do not create destruction. So you want us to be your military, Hayes said. It was not a question. Not just military, Mora corrected. We want a partnership. We have technologies that could benefit humanity. Our medical science is advanced. Our physics research is extensive. Our engineering capabilities, while not focused on weapons, are considerable. In exchange for your protection, we offer full access to our knowledge. A true alliance between our peoples. Morrison considered this. And what about other species? We received reports during the battle that other civilizations were watching. Some of them are peaceful like you. If we make this treaty, they may approach us with similar requests. That is our hope, Mora said simply. The galaxy has many peaceful species who cannot defend themselves. They have been conquered, enslaved, or forced to pay tribute to aggressive empires. If humanity is willing to stand as a shield for those who cannot fight, it could change everything. It could also make humanity a target. Hayes pointed out. Every aggressive species in the galaxy would see us as a threat. They already see you as a threat, the older council member said. Everyone knows about Earth. Everyone knows humans are dangerous. But until now, they thought you were only dangerous to each other. You have shown that you are dangerous to anyone who threatens the innocent. That makes you the most dangerous species of all to those who profit from conquest. Morrison walked to the window and looked out at the planet below. Recovery crews worked in the cities. Hospitals overflowed with wounded. Schools that had been targeted during the bombardment were being rebuilt. Children played in the streets under the watchful eyes of parents who had almost lost them. He thought about his own daughter back on Earth. She was 7 years old. She loved drawing pictures and asking impossible questions. If someone had threatened her world, if someone had targeted her school, he would want someone to help. He would want someone to stand between her and the monsters. I will recommend the treaty to my government, Morrison said finally. But I cannot promise they will accept. Earth has its own problems. Taking responsibility for other worlds is a massive undertaking. We understand, Mora said. But please, tell them what you saw here. Tell them about the children who survived. Because you came, tell them that sometimes the strong exist to protect the weak, not to dominate them. Morrison nodded. I will tell them. As he and Hayes left the council chamber, Hayes spoke quietly. You know they will accept. Earth has been looking for a purpose since we joined the galactic community. Most species fear us. Others avoid us. This gives us a chance to be something other than the scary species from the death world. Maybe, Morrison said. Or maybe it puts a target on our backs that never goes away. We already have that target. We have had it since the first human ship left Earth and met our first alien species. Everyone is afraid of us because we survived a world that should have killed us. We might as well use that fear for something good. Morrison smiled slightly. When did you become a philosopher? I learned from the best. They returned to the Valiant to find Dr. Chen waiting for them in the medical bay. She looked exhausted. Her uniform was stained with blood from a dozen different species. Her eyes had dark circles under them, but she was still working. Captain, I need to show you something, she said. She led them to a private room where a young Taurian female sat on a medical bed. She was the one Martinez had found in the cargo hold. Holding a small child. The child slept peacefully now, clean and fed and safe. The mother looked up as Morrison entered. This is Tella, Chen explained. She was captured by the Kresh 3 years ago during a raid on a trade station. They kept her and her daughter as slaves. She wanted to thank you personally. Tella stood up. Her hands shook slightly as she spoke. Captain Morrison, I heard what you did. I heard you put your ship between the planet and the weapon. I heard your people fought to save us even though we are strangers. Why would you do that? Morrison knelt down so he was at eye level with her. Because your daughter deserves to grow up safe. Because every parent should be able to protect their children. Because it is the right thing to do. Tears fell down Tella's face. I thought I would never see my home again. I thought my daughter would grow up a slave. But you saved us. You saved all of us. Morrison took her hand gently. You are going home. Your daughter will grow up free. That is all that matters. After Tella left with her child, Chen sat down heavily on a nearby chair. I have been thinking about what we are doing here. About what it means. What are you thinking? Morrison asked. That maybe this is what humanity was meant to do. We survived a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to fight predators that were stronger, faster, and meaner than us. We learned to work together because alone we would die. Maybe all of that was preparing us for this. To be the ones who protect species who never had to learn how to fight. Hayes nodded. The Taurians have had 1,000 years of peace. They used that time to create beauty and expand knowledge. We spent thousands of years fighting just to survive. Different paths, but both valuable. Together, we could be something remarkable, Chen said. They have the knowledge. We have the strength. Combine them, and you get a partnership that benefits everyone. Morrison's communicator beeped. It was Palmer. Captain, we have completed our sweep of all the disabled Kresh ships. We found a total of 847 prisoners. Most are from different species. They have all been freed and are receiving medical care. Good work, Palmer. What about Kilrax? Secured in our brig. He has been demanding to speak with you. Morrison sighed. I suppose I should hear what he has to say. Hayes, you are with me. They found Kilrax in the detention area. The cell was designed for humans, so it was barely large enough for the massive Kresh commander. He sat on the floor, his armor removed, his hands bound with restraints strong enough to hold him. When Morrison entered, Kilrax looked up with hatred in his eyes. You have won nothing, human, Kilrax snarled. The Kresh Empire will send more ships. They will destroy you and everyone you tried to protect. Maybe, Morrison said calmly. But they will think twice before attacking civilians again. You made it easy for us to justify our actions. You targeted schools and hospitals. You kept slaves. You used a planet-killer weapon on innocent people. Every species in the galaxy saw what you did. Even your allies will condemn you. I am a warrior. I follow the code of conquest. The strong take from the weak. That is the natural order. Morrison leaned against the wall. You know what I think? I think you are a coward. Real strength is not about dominating those weaker than you. It is about protecting them. It is about choosing mercy when you could choose violence. You had every advantage over the Taurians, and you still acted like a bully. Kilrax lunged at the bars. You dare call me a coward? I have conquered 20 worlds, and now you will face justice for every crime you committed on each of those worlds. The prisoners we freed are already giving testimony. The evidence is overwhelming. You will spend the rest of your life in a cell, thinking about all the people you hurt. Morrison turned to leave, then paused. By the way, we sent the recordings of this battle to every major government in the galaxy. They all saw you lose to a force 1/4 your size. They saw you use a planet killer on civilians. They saw you surrender. Your reputation as a fearsome commander is finished. History will remember you as the coward who targeted children and lost. He walked away, leaving Kilrax screaming threats that meant nothing anymore. On the bridge, Hayes was reviewing reports from the fleet. All ships report ready to return to Earth. The Taurians have enough of their own vessels operational now to maintain system security. Ambassador Velic wants to know when we are leaving. Tell him we leave in the morning, Morrison said. But also tell him that humanity will not forget the Taurians. Whatever happens with the treaty, we will be watching this system. If the Kresh or anyone else tries to attack again, we will come. That night, Morrison stood alone in his quarters, looking at a picture of his daughter. She was smiling in the photo, holding a drawing she had made. It was supposed to be him in his uniform, though it looked more like a stick figure with a blue rectangle for a body. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Toria. The human fleet had returned to Earth, but parts of it remained. A permanent defense station now orbited the Taurian homeworld. It was not large or intimidating. It did not need to be. Everyone in the galaxy knew what it represented. Humanity's promise that this world was under their protection. Captain Morrison stood in the command center of the new station. It was a joint operation now. Human military personnel worked alongside Taurian scientists and engineers. The differences between the species were obvious. Taurians were taller and thinner, with skin that ranged from pale blue to deep purple. Humans were shorter and denser, built for heavy gravity, but they worked together smoothly, learning from each other. Commander Hayes walked up to him with a data pad. The latest reports from Earth Command. They are calling it the Guardian Initiative. 12 new rapid response fleets are being assembled. Each one will be assigned to a sector of the galaxy where peaceful species need protection. 12 fleets, Morrison said. That is a massive commitment. The Taurian Treaty changed everything. After the battle recordings went public, we were contacted by 47 different species. All of them peaceful. All of them targeted by aggressive empires at some point. They want what the Taurians have. Protection in exchange for cooperation and shared knowledge. Morrison looked at the strategic display. Red markers showed hostile territories. The Kresh Empire, still licking its wounds. The Varkon hegemony, who had been conquering smaller species for centuries. The Draken warlords, who saw peaceful species as resources to exploit. Blue markers showed allied territories. There were more than he expected. Earth Command accepted 32 of the treaty requests. Hayes continued. The others are still under review. We are being very careful about who we agree to protect. We need to make sure they are genuinely peaceful and not trying to use us to fight their wars. Smart. The last thing we need is to get pulled into territorial disputes or trade conflicts. Lieutenant Cooper entered the command center. He looked older now, more confident. 3 months ago, he had been a young weapons officer, hoping he would do well in his first real battle. Now he was a veteran, training other officers in the tactics humanity had developed. Captain, We have an incoming message from the Zenthari Trade Federation. They want to negotiate a protection treaty. Hayes raised an eyebrow. The Zenthari? They are not exactly peaceful. They have been known to use mercenaries to protect their interests. That is exactly why we should not accept, Morrison said. Send a polite refusal. Explain that our treaties are for species who cannot defend themselves, not for those who choose profit over morality. Understood. Dr. Chen appeared on the communication screen. She was planet-side, working at a joint human-Taurian research facility. Captain, I wanted to update you on the medical exchange program. We have had remarkable success. Taurian pharmaceutical techniques combined with human medical knowledge have led to 3 new treatments for diseases that affect both our species. That is excellent news. It is more than that. This is what the treaty is supposed to be. Not just us protecting them, but both species benefiting from cooperation. We learn from them, they learn from us. Everyone becomes stronger. After the call ended, Morrison walked through the station. He passed by a recreation area, where human Marines played a complicated Taurian board game with local security officers. The rules made no sense to him, but both groups seemed to be enjoying themselves. Language barriers were being broken down. Cultural exchanges were happening naturally. He found Sergeant Palmer in the training center, working with a group of Taurian security personnel. Palmer was demonstrating hand-to-hand combat techniques, showing them how to defend against opponents who were larger and stronger. The key is not to match their strength, Palmer explained. You use their momentum against them. You target weak points. You stay mobile. Size is not everything in a fight. One of the Taurians raised a hand. But Sergeant Palmer, we are not warriors. We do not wish to become like the species we fear. Palmer nodded. I understand. And that is good. You should not become like them. But knowing how to defend yourself is not the same as being aggressive. I am teaching you to protect your families, not to conquer others. There is a big difference. Morrison watched the training session for a few more minutes, then continued his tour. He passed by the engineering section where Kate Sullivan was explaining human shield technology to a group of Taurian engineers. They were fascinated by how humans had developed systems that could withstand such punishment. You push everything to the limit, one of them said. Your technology operates at efficiency levels we would consider dangerous, Sullivan grinned. That is because we come from a world where playing it safe gets you killed. We learn to push boundaries because we had to. But that does not mean your approach is wrong. Your systems are elegant and efficient. If we combine your precision with our durability, we could create something remarkable. Morrison's communicator beeped. It was Ambassador Velic. Captain, could you come to the council chamber? There is someone High Shepherd Mora wants you to meet. Morrison made his way to the planet's surface. The cities had been rebuilt in the 3 months since the attack. New structures stood where old ones had been destroyed. Memorial gardens honored those who had died. But life had returned to normal. Children went to school. Parents went to work. The trauma was fading, replaced by hope. In the council chamber, he found Mora speaking with a small, almost insect-like alien. It had multiple limbs and large, compound eyes. Morrison did not recognize the species. Captain Morrison, Mora said. This is Ambassador Chillick of the Hivet Collective. They are another peaceful species who have been watching what happened here with great interest. Chillick's voice was high-pitched and melodic, translated by a device at war. Captain Morrison, my people have heard of your battle. We have heard of your treaty with the Taurians. We face a similar problem. The Draken warlords have been raiding our colonies, taking our people as slaves. We have no military. We have no way to fight back. Would humanity consider helping us? Morrison looked at Mora. She nodded slightly. We have verified their situation. The Hivet Collective is genuinely peaceful. Their technology is focused on environmental harmony and sustainable development. They have much to offer in exchange for protection. Morrison considered carefully. This was the moment where humanity's commitment would be tested. It was easy to help the Taurians after seeing the devastation the Kresh had caused. But taking on another species, expanding their responsibilities, that was a bigger step. How many colonies are under threat? Morrison asked. 7 worlds and 12 stations. Chillik replied. The Draken raid every few months. They take our youth to sell at slave markets. We have lost thousands of our people over the past decade. Morrison made his decision. I will recommend to Earth, command that we accept your treaty request. But I want you to understand something. If we accept, we take this seriously. We will defend your worlds. We will hunt down the slavers. And we will not stop until your people are safe. Chillik's entire body seemed to vibrate with relief. Thank you, Captain. You have given us hope. After Chillik left, Mora turned to Morrison. You did not hesitate. Most species would have demanded extensive negotiations, payment plans, territorial concessions. You simply agreed to help. That is because we are not doing this for profit or power, Morrison said. We are doing it because it is right. If humanity becomes just another empire demanding tribute for protection, we are no better than the Kresh or the Draken. This has to be a genuine partnership, or it means nothing. Mora smiled. That is why so many species want to ally with you. Not because you are strong, though you are. Not because you are advanced, though your technology is impressive. They want to ally with you because you care, because you look at their children and see your own, because you understand that every life has value. That evening, Morrison returned to the station and found a message waiting from Earth. It was from the Supreme Commander of Earth Defense Forces. The message was brief but significant. Earth Command had approved the Hivit Treaty. They had also approved 15 more. The Guardian Initiative was expanding faster than anyone had expected. The message included a personal note from the commander. Morrison, you started something remarkable. The galaxy is changing because you and your crew decided to answer a distress call. But remember, we cannot save everyone. We cannot be everywhere. Choose carefully who we protect. Make sure they share our values. And never lose sight of why we are doing this. Morrison understood. Power could corrupt. Good intentions could lead to bad outcomes. Humanity had to be very careful not to become the very thing they were fighting against. He called a meeting with his senior staff. Hayes, Cooper, Palmer, Chen, and Sullivan all gathered in the briefing room. You have all seen the reports, Morrison began. The Guardian Initiative is growing. Earth is committing significant resources to this. But we need to make sure we do this right. I want your honest opinions. Are we making a mistake? Are we taking on too much? Palmer spoke first. I think we are doing what we should have been doing all along. Earth has been isolated since we joined the galactic community. Most species fear us. This gives us a chance to show them who we really are. Not monsters, not conquerors, protectors. Chen nodded. The medical exchanges alone justify the program. We have learned more in 3 months working with the Taurians than we would have in years of our own research. Imagine what we can learn from dozens of species. Sullivan added her perspective. The engineering collaboration is incredible. Different species approach problems differently. Combining those approaches creates innovation that none of us could achieve alone. Routable. Cooper was more cautious. But we need to be careful. The more species we protect, the more enemies we make. The aggressive empires will not take kindly to humanity blocking their expansion. We could be starting a war that spans the entire galaxy. Hayes had been quiet, but now she spoke. We have already started that war. The moment we saved the Taurians, we made our position clear. The aggressive species know we will stand against them. The question is not whether we will fight, but whether we will fight alone or with allies. Morrison listened to them all. These were his people. They had been through battle together. They had seen the worst the galaxy had to offer. But they had also seen the best. They had seen species helping each other. They had seen former enemies becoming friends. They had seen hope. Then we continue, Morrison said. But we do it smart. We vet every species that approaches us. We make sure our treaties are genuine partnerships, not colonial arrangements. And we never forget why we are doing this. We are not building an empire. We are building a community where the strong protect the weak, instead of exploiting them. The meeting ended. His staff left to return to their duties. Morrison stood alone in the briefing room, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there were dozens of species who needed help, peaceful beings who wanted nothing more than to live their lives without fear. And now, humanity would stand between them and the darkness. He thought about his daughter back on Earth. She would grow up in a galaxy that was changing. She would grow up knowing that her species had chosen to be guardians instead of conquerors. She would grow up proud of what humanity had become. Morrison's communicator beeped one more time. It was a distress call. A small trading station was under attack by pirates. They were asking for help. They were asking for the humans. Morrison activated his comm. All hands, battle stations, set course for the trading station. Maximum speed. The station came alive with activity. Marines grabbed their equipment. Engineers prepped the engines. Medical staff prepared for incoming wounded. Everyone knew their job. Everyone was ready. As the human ships launched from the station and accelerated toward the distress call, Morrison stood on the bridge and made a promise, not just to the species calling for help, but to everyone in the galaxy who needed protection. Humanity would answer the call. Every time. No matter the odds. No matter the cost. Because that is what Guardians do. They show up. They stand firm. They protect those who cannot protect themselves. The age of humanity standing guard had truly begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. He thought about Tella's daughter. About all the children on the planet below who would grow up because humanity had decided to help. About the choice his people would have to make. To be protectors. To stand between the innocent and the monsters. His communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth Command. They had reviewed his report and the recordings of the battle. The decision had been made quickly. Earth would accept the Taurian Treaty. More than that, they were establishing a rapid response fleet, specifically to answer distress calls from peaceful species. Humanity was officially becoming the galaxy's shield. Morrison smiled and looked back at his daughter's picture. Maybe this was what all those years of survival and struggle had been preparing them for. Not to be the strongest or the smartest, but to be the ones who showed up when others needed help. Pay. Morrison turned to face him. You owe us nothing. We did what anyone should do when they hear that children are in danger. Look, Seven, but you risked everything. Your ship, your crew, your lives, for people you never met. People who most of the galaxy considers weak and worthless. The galaxy is wrong, Morrison said simply. There is no such thing as worthless people. Everyone deserves to live in peace. Everyone deserves to protect their children. If the rest of the galaxy has forgotten that, then maybe it is time someone reminded them. Velek was silent for a long moment. Then he said, The Council wishes to speak with you. They have a proposal. What kind of proposal? One that could change everything. Thing that is probably insane. My favorite kind of order. Can you position us between the planet killer weapon and the planet? There was a pause. Captain, that weapon will burn through our shields in seconds. I did not ask if it was safe. I asked if you could do it. Sullivan's voice was steady when she replied, Give me control of the helm, and tell the crew to hang on to something. The Valiant broke away from the fleet and accelerated toward the Kresh flagship. Every other human ship followed Morrison's orders and fired at the flagship's shields. The combined firepower lit up space like a sun. The Kresh shields flickered and weakened but did not break. Kilrak saw the human ship approaching and realized what Morrison intended to do. For the first time since the battle began, he felt something close to fear. That human is insane. He will kill his entire crew just to save these worthless civilians. His tactical officer worked frantically at his console. The weapon is charged and ready. Firing in 10 seconds. The Valiant slid into position between the flagship and the planet. Sullivan had positioned them perfectly, right in the path of the energy beam. On the bridge, alarm screamed. The crew braced themselves. Morrison sat calmly in his chair and watched the countdown. The planet killer fired. A beam of pure, destructive energy shot toward the planet below where 15 billion Taurians waited to die. It struck the Valiant's shields head-on. Below them, the planet waited, cities full of families, schools full of children, hospitals full of the sick and injured. All of them unaware that their only hope was 12 ships from a species the galaxy feared, rushing through the void at impossible speeds. The hour began to count down. Velik stood at his console and prayed to gods he barely believed in anymore. He prayed that the humans would arrive in time. He prayed that the stories about them were true. He prayed that humanity's reputation for violence and fury would finally serve a good purpose. The Kresh fleet moved into position over the planet. Their weapons powered up. The bombardment would begin soon. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the humans raced closer.